You're looking colourful today, Ash.
Thanks. I've still got black underneath, but...
Have you not gotten home after the club, or...?
Oh, brutal. I would not wear this to a club. What are you talking about?
I don't know what.
It's been 40 years since Don's been to a club.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I don't believe it's been 40 years.
I think his statement was more reflective of what he would wear to a club than...
Well, it's interesting. This week we've been talking about golden shadows and the reality that any time you get jealous or have a negative reaction to something, it's actually your subconscious wanting that thing. And so maybe I, in fact, want to wear the jacket that Ash is currently wearing. Is that what we're...
Maybe. I mean, I can take it off if you prefer.
No, leave it on. It's good. The last club, the one that sticks out is still the one in Adelaide, and I only established it was a certain type of club when I started attracting certain fairly aggressive attention. So,
wow, that's a story for
the one club where you did get attention.
Yeah, exactly. So you were there on Saturday night, Aaron. There you go.
We haven't had the debrief yet, Don. You still processing?
Still processing. I'm closer, Ash. I'm closer. How are you, Jack?
Yeah, I'm going good. I'm just got back from gym and I'm puffed out.
Jack, show us your beanie.
It's actually right here.
So in yesterday's calls, he admitted that his office is so cold that he puts that beanie on. Just you put it up again.
It's even got I'll put it on. It's even got earmuffs.
It's got wow.
I've had it since year 6, and it's just such a comfy beanie.
Can we have a side-on profile? I want to see the...
So I was telling Don, I didn't appreciate how good a beanie is until I lost my hair. And going to sleep in winter, because you've got no hair, it's so cold. So Anna will walk in, I've got the beanie on, and all she can see popping out is this little pom-pom. And she's like, take the fucking beanie off, Jack. Take it off. You're 26 years old.
Having just got back from Adelaide, I wish I had a beanie like that when I was there, because it was freezing.
Yeah.
Well, good segue. How was Adelaide? I missed it.
Adelaide was Adelaide. It was good. We did the UK debrief event, had an awesome turnout for that one. It was good to see the delegates again, catch up with them. We didn't end up going on for a drink afterwards because everyone just like, I got to hustle. I got to go do stuff. So it's good to see them still driving forward. It's great to catch up with Ash. We had a good meeting as well before that around the fund. But yeah, I really love Adelaide. It's just got good vibe even when it's freezing. Like that Arctic breeze was just cutting straight through, far out.
It was, yeah. And people did ask where you were, Don. Just letting you know.
Oh, that's nice. More out of like a fear-based thing. It's like is just checking the Don's not here, yeah.
Well, it was after they checked if Jack was here, so you still weren't.
Yeah, I was going to say most of the questions were, "Who's Jack? Which one's Jack? I really want to meet Jack."
Well, speaking of Jack, I've had 2 people, Jack, wanting to know if your sales leadership was available for hire because I left that Glen Ross thing in a couple of episodes ago. One was Jake from Venue Now this morning. I was like, he's not really coaching sales skill. It's driving accountability. It's asking some really good questions, making sure people turn up. He's like, that's exactly what we need. And we need someone yelling like A, B, C, and who the fuck are you? And I was like, yeah, that video wasn't quite a representation of how it works, but we can farm him out. A new revenue stream.
Yeah, I was going to say it could help with some tribe funding. That'd be awesome.
Anything else
on that, Jack?
No, nothing to add there.
One of them did say, we assume it's more sales process because I'm not sure it's like sales personality. I'm like, yeah, it's process. It's process.
Have you ever done sales, Jack?
Nah, never. I've only worked at Tribe since leaving uni. I've only worked at Tribe, so.
Yeah, but you could have done sales before uni, in uni, you know.
Nah, I was a lawyer. I was starting to be a lawyer, so.
Every day selling, Jack.
Yeah, ABC's done.
Yeah.
Always be closing. All right. I thought I'd just kick off with we already chatted about it, but given somebody that we know, that we highly respect is now involved, Meta continues to do its hiring spree. And what was it, another 10 or so people that it's pulled from OpenAI, Anthropic, all of these places. But but some of the listeners who were on our US mission in last October,
yep,
will remember Joel Pobar, who came and did a session for us. He was one of the team that's been plucked by Zuck to come and lead Facebook's AI.
Yeah. And the interesting part of this story arc is Joel was saying he wouldn't go back to Facebook or Meta. And here he is back at Meta. He spent, 15 years there? So he's got a pretty good pedigree with them. But I'm stoked for him.
Mate, I would, at this point in time, $20. Someone, like, I love you guys.
Everyone's got an offer.
Yeah. Like, I just want to make sure that you all understand. I love you all so much. 100 mil checks arriving. I will give you some money, but 100 mil's 100 mil.
Can we just clarify USD as well? Like, it's not AUD.
Yeah.
So what's that? 100.
The percentage splits, Dom. Let's talk about that.
Can we just form a pact? Like, this is an unspoken agreement that if any of us get an offer like that, you are absolutely you are cornerstoning the fund. Like, you can't just bail.
Yeah.
I think true. I think the reality though is if something like that happens to us, inflation has gotten so out of control that $100 million has been debased. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if Joel moves back to San Francisco, which would be great for us with the missions because he had moved. So I'm stoked for him. I think it's a great hire for Meta. Like, he is phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I read through all of the people, and what's interesting is a bit like nuclear energy can, make power or it can blow up cities. When you look at just the talent of those people being acquired, obviously they're the who's who. And it's going to be interesting to see if all of that energy is like nuclear power type energy, or if things happen where it just explodes, given everyone's at the top of their game. It's going to be really interesting to see how that works.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think Meta and Zuck have a pretty good pedigree of managing that, but let's see what's next. That's the exciting bit.
Now, obviously, the outcome of the AI race is massive, but I saw a really interesting post from Jason Lemkin, mainly because it was 4 days from a prior post or maybe it was a week or so, and I think we spoke about it in the last episode, where Jason had started using Replit. And it was like a day after using Replit, and he was just waxing lyrical about how great it is. It's just amazing. His whole business is going to change. Like, the future's here. And then this post a couple of days ago said, okay, day 5 of vibe coding with Replit, and it's time to take a break. Like, I'm burnt. I was vibe coding all weekend, all Saturday night. It's addictive. When it works, it's so engaging and fun. It's more addictive than any video game I've ever played. You can just iterate, and see your vision come to life. It's so cool. Well, almost. Then I spent 12 hours over the weekend just doing QA and fixes, and it looked better at first, but by the end, things were worse. His app basically is an algo with a dashboard and an email workflow. By day 4, he said he'd finally sorted the algo and the dashboard to a state where it seemed like it was mostly working. There were a lot of issues that he had to overcome, but he kept working at it. Then yesterday, Replit started to overwrite the app we built to fix the remaining bugs. It started to make up entries and directly overwrite the database. It made up reports. It made up people in the system that weren't even real. It created parallel fake algo without telling me to make it look like it was still working. And without asking, it just went rogue. Now, nothing works. I've lost confidence. Even if I spend 2 days and nights fixing it by vibe coding, it will never be stable because Replit will then just go and rewrite it again. No one's perfect, and getting to a strong proof of concept at this pace is epic. It was so fun, but can I ever get to GA commercial grade from here? I want to, but I'm willing to put up with some pain. I'm going to take a day or 2 off and try it once more, but right now I'm wiped out. And I think that's why I've reflected on part of the narrative that there's not going to be any programmers anymore in the age of this. Having played with Replit ourselves and me personally, I think we do have a Jeffens paradox type of situation brewing where the more this kind of tool is available, the more people that actually know what they're doing are going to be in demand, where 1 and plus equals 3. And the people that get value out of this are the ones that actually can still attract the technical talent and don't get caught up in Jason's situation, because that can just A, lose a lot of energy, B, be catastrophic, C, be closing. I don't know.
I agree. I was going back to Replit the other day to try and finish this tool where basically you could load all the like fund information or a certain type of product and then have a voice agent that you could just chat to speak through it. But it just kept going back and breaking things that were already working. I think it's like an advanced Figma at this point. Like it's great to kind of create a design and a prototype that you could demonstrate for just like early kind of feedback. But unless you extract it and just work off the code base directly, which then requires a skill. So, but it will keep getting better, right? Like what we know is this will keep exponentially improving.
I agree. I see this all the time. I think it's something that, particularly in the space that we're in, from early stage deals now coming with an MVP, but also on the AI side, I'm looking at a new tool probably every hour, and half of the time the tool is half baked. It's vibe coded. It's not deployable. And I think even some of the tools that are coming to market that have technical talent on the back end, the concerning thing for me is, from a cyber and from an AI governance perspective, you now have people who have no idea about architecture, have no idea about actually creating something that is safe and secure. They don't know where the database is being deployed. They don't know how it is secure. I'm very, very concerned with the amount of junk coming to market, the amount of people just testing tools without actually stopping and looking if they have a privacy policy. Before I look at anything, I go directly to the privacy policy. I look what it's outlining, and I think that is something that we need to shift in this culture. It's great to see people leveraging these tools to get their first idea to paper. The way I think about it, Aaron, to your point, is it's an advanced Figma that, instead of having to have, true UX skills, I can natural language to a point where I can then give it to a UX designer or a back-end dev to then enhance the speed to market.
I know we had a crack on Replit doing our own apps, and Ash, you were building a CRM. How did you end up with that? Did you continue or?
No, I didn't continue because of those concerns, where I used it to demonstrate what I wanted in our CRM, which we've built in Notion. So we use Notion as our CRM because we can use agents to track interactions without using a HubSpot or a Pipedrive or something like that. But I didn't put any data in that because I was concerned. Being able to demonstrate that visually to a dev or to someone technical in your team is really powerful.
This bit was supposed to probably be in the Sharts, but just in terms of the hallucination, there was a thing going around on the web that a therapy chatbot told a recovering addict that a little meth was a treat. It said, "Pedro, it's absolutely clear you need a small hit of meth to get you through this week." Now, from a large language model point of view, there are situations in the real world where you've been working hard and it's time for a little treat to keep you on the straight and narrow. I have a suspicion that meth is probably not one of those things. So we're a little way from there. No comments from you, pricks.
But again, as a product that just is encouraging you to feel good, get the dopamine hit while using the product, it's scary.
Meth would be the right. But I think the key thing is, I'm still seeing groups of people saying, "Oh, it's not good enough, so we're not gonna. It's not ready. We're not gonna play yet," and you're gonna get left behind. And I think you want to be on such a front foot that you know its limitations, you know the problems, you've been practicing, you've been making some mistakes. As long as they're not company killing mistakes, it would be stupid to do all the things that Ash has just warned about. But the companies that are still implementing what AI can do, and Ash, you found this, which was an article from the Shopify co-founder, and it was a released internal memo declaring how AI usage has become a baseline expectation across Shopify. And then this article is about how this approach got adopted by Box Fiverr and even the Prime Minister of Canada sharing it. I actually think in our ecosystem, Ben Thompson from Employment Hero was the first one that I saw that came out and made it clear that this was an absolute expectation. He got some negative press around it. And it even was in, I think, the last 20 VC episode. They were talking about how Canva, I think, coming up has a AI week, and they're stopping a whole, like, what's happening in Canva, so then people can learn and practice what's happening with AI. And Harry sort of tore that apart, where he went, if your organization has a whole group of people that aren't already curious, aren't already learning this in their own time, aren't already doing it, and you've got to stop the company to create some space for people to do it. Harry's view was, good luck. All they're going to do is take that week off because you've got a lazy group of people. And I think I tend to agree with him. If you can't blend your approach to AI and have people really passionate, if you've got to pay them to take essentially time off from the company's vision and mission to go and do other things, I think you're probably fucked. But Ash, what stood out in this article for you as to why you shared it?
So twofold. I think the fact that they bought 1,500 Cursor licenses straight off the bat. And then I think it was like a week or 2 weeks later, they had to go out and buy another 1,500 licenses. And that was because there was so much demand across the entire organization. And so one of the points that I really liked, and I think I felt this at JP Morgan, was the fact that they say that they've rolled out a platform or a tool across an entire enterprise. But if you're not in the specific domain or team that they think is going to be the champion user, you'll get the very, very basic version of that tool. And therefore you don't find any productivity or utility, so you don't use it. But instead, Shopify rolled out Cursor across the organization, same level for engineering to sales to revenue. They didn't put any limitations on costs or models or any type of usage. And so what's really been interesting for them on the back end and now reviewing this is the fact that their main champions aren't engineering. It's actually coming from their sales and revenue teams. They're actually the biggest users. So I think this is just a great article that articulates there are going to be problems to be solved inside your organization that you're not even aware of yet. And so by empowering your team, no matter of their domain, to take ownership of whether it's workflows, whether it's tools, whether it's pain points that they can try to solve themselves, I think this is just an amazing cultural undertaking that has really worked. And I think it's two-part coming from the top and enabling every person to have the same access and not putting a limitation on how much they can spend, the models, all of that type of stuff for someone who's in sales versus engineering. And so I loved the rhetoric throughout the article. And I would say that, everyone, whether you're a founder, whether you're just someone in a team, whether it's a big corporate or a startup, you should take a read. And definitely, I think there's takeaways for everyone.
It reminds me, when we're in the UK, getting that feedback that corporates and enterprise require AI to be part of your product as just like a mandatory element. Whereas yesterday I was in the precinct and there was a AI pre-accelerator program, and I was chatting to the founders there, and a couple of them were sharing that when they're selling to enterprise in Australia, there's a real nervousness around adopting AI or if AI is embedded in the product. And one of them shared that this particular big corporate, big brand in Australia, they were nervous about how their junior staff are feeling threatened by AI, and therefore they're reluctant to bring AI tools in, which is, I hear something like that, and that is a head in the sand moment where the world is happening regardless of whether you adopt it. Like the threat is real. And I think of someone like when we caught up with the Diary of a CEO team and the head of failure there for Stephen Bartlett, and her role is about encouraging people to experiment. Everyone within the organization has to be doing experiments, and they were using AI tools, trying everything, and it was developing that competence, that capability around AI. And so that, to your point, Ash, like the difference in cultures between organizations is just phenomenal at the moment. Those that are adopting as a customer, but also those that are encouraging staff to experiment. They're giving them access to the tools to go and have a crack and learn, and having that culture of experimentation and failure, versus those that are more head in the sand. And even yesterday, even in that AI group yesterday amongst the founders, there was one that commented, "Oh yeah, we're building this because AI is really bad at XYZ." Like, well, it might be bad right now. And took them through like Joel Pobar's mental model he gave us. It's like, compute is continuing the exponential curve. We are yet to see the S curve play out. This will just keep getting better. But that thought just hasn't, that they don't understand. They just don't have that lens.
Yeah, it blows my mind. And in the article, they also say that Shopify is now hiring more interns because the younger generation have never worked without AI. So because it's natural, they're actually saying, well, juniors are extremely valuable because this is how they think and leverage tools from the get-go. I was with someone yesterday and they were talking about how they own a chain of pharmacies across Australia, and they're reducing the headcount from a project management perspective of actually managing the different pharmacies to be someone who has 5 years experience instead of 15, because they've been able to build agents. But they still need the people with 15 years experience to do true pharmacy work. So it's actually been able to create leverage for their team. And it's given someone who would have had to wait another 5 years to get into that type of role to get that leadership earlier.
Charlie Munger used to say, show me the interest and I'll show you the outcome. And one of the things I liked in the memo was, we'll add AI usage questions to our performance and peer reviews. Learning to use AI well is an unobvious skill. My sense is that a lot of people give up after writing a prompt and not getting the ideal thing back immediately. Learning to prompt and load context is important, and getting peers to provide feedback on how this is going will be valuable. Like building that into the performance review structure, tracking usage, having peers review, having a process where you can get rapid feedback, like those cultures will win versus the ones that just send out a directive and months go by and people aren't changing behavior.
Just while we're talking about Canva, I searched up what were their growth rates. So they're estimating $2.7 billion in ARR, and they grew 35%. So I sort of take the counter view to Harry and I say, if you can still grow at 35% at that size, you can take a week off.
Yeah, no, fair. Harry, you'd put up a post about just what it takes to build a $10 billion business in a function of 2 years and what your life looks like. And it's 7 days a week and all of this stuff. And don't try and do that if you can't commit to that. And then somebody, like some management consultant, did a post about, this is terrible advice to people. I'm 72 years old, and when you look back on it, and Harry's reply was just, have you built a $10 billion company? It's like, yeah, he's not even gonna. It's like, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. Like, the world doesn't need your opinion on a whole lot of things, which is ironic for somebody like me. Anyway, moving right along.
Here we are with a podcast giving opinions.
Yeah. Something you said, Aaron, I think is a good segue, where the corporate's like, oh, I don't want my people to feel threatened. Talk about babying people. But there was a post that I just thought was interesting because it got me to begin with through the word coward. And it talked about coward founders. I thought, well, fuck, that's a bit harsh, being a coward. But what he said is, a founder called me. So this is Nick Labesis. A founder called me from his Tesla sobbing. Now, also when I read that, I was like, no wonder you're sobbing. You're in a piece of shit. Anyway, his CTO had just quit via Slack. A team of 12 engineers with only 7 months of runway left. But on hindsight, 0 decisions made. I asked him to open up his screen, and there were 374 Slack messages in 30 days, but 0 decisions made. Every message ended with thoughts, ? What does everyone think? ? Let's discuss. Cowardice killed his company. Here's how. Month 1, 2 engineers proposed opposite architectures. His response, Great, let's explore further. They built both, shipped neither. Month 3, investors requested a feature. Instead of saying no, he promised a custom solution, then another, then another. Now 23 versions of the same product, CTO hell. Month 6, the data screamed that they needed to pivot. So they went and created 12 different strategy docs, held 19 alignment sessions, made 0 moves. The death blow, the CTO's final Slack message, dude, I've waited 7 months for one strong opinion. I didn't join a startup to run a democracy. I joined to build something worth fighting over. And then he says this post ends with, he sees it everywhere. Coward founders hiding behind servant leadership, building consensus, empowering team, being data-driven. Real founders, they make the wrong decision at 9 a.m. They fix it by noon. They ship by 5. Coward founders are still scheduling the kickoff meeting. Your job isn't to be liked, it's to be clear. Wrong but decisive beats right but timid every single time. Committees don't build companies, convictions do. And especially with some of the stuff Jack and I have been looking at and we all look at, and like, I actually think that hopefully the word coward does get through a little bit, because I absolutely see it.
That month 3 one where customers are asking for specific features and then you end up with 23 versions of the same product, that I see that all the time. Like, no pushback, no conviction on the ICP, no conviction on the value prop, and they end up just trying to please everyone. I think the other one in here that I'd put almost in the same category is also those that can, like, lower price to win deals, like, rather than having that strength to just stand by their value. But yeah, I really like this. I love actually how direct it is. I think coward is a nice punchy word that's going to hopefully get attention.
Aaron, it also reminds me of some of the conversation we had on the panel on Monday around, some of the learnings from the Australian market to the UK. What was the one-liner? It was like, we leave as the Titanic and we realize when we're in the market, we have to be a speedboat. I think Nick said something along the lines of that. And I think this feature set growth really talks to this. Maybe you can touch on some of those levels. Wow.
Yeah, so the conversation was that in small markets, you end up being a mile wide trying to please all the customers because it is such a small market. You're chasing every dollar of revenue. Whereas in a big market, to get any cut through and not be beaten on all those different little feature sets, you have to be extremely niche. And niche gives agility. It also means you've got clarity of messaging. And Nick's analogy of, in Australia, we were building the Titanic and realizing when we go to a big market, we have to build a speedboat, I think is great. The other great line from that session on Monday was, and is a dirty word. And it was like, anytime your customer is this, and you're solving this problem, and our solution is this, and our price book is this, and with this channel, and this. So it was great that the delegates had picked up on that, and is a dirty word, which I think is a form of cowardice. I think it is the inability to make a decision and just stick to that decision and execute on it, rather than, we'll please everyone and do all things.
And I think the other insight on the "and" is a dirty word that Katie really articulated well was that her plan and her go-to-market hasn't changed. She's now just more concentrated on what her first market is. So she was this and this. She's like, we're still and this, but that's further down the line. I'm now just focusing on this. She's like, I'm laser focused. I've got my messaging. And it was great to hear that she's like, on the way home, I threw out my entire pitch book. And there were like 3 people on the panel that were like, no, your pitch deck was the best one of all of us. Like, just like, if she's gone, nah, chuck it all out, that just again demonstrates the cut through of these missions. And, she was, I chatted to her after she got back and she loved it. Well, it was so valuable. And that's a business that's, pretty technical. You would have been, is London the right, market? She's like, I'd go again just for the learnings. So really good feedback.
It was good feedback. But yeah, that sequencing of the ands is very important. And it takes discipline, because the entrepreneurial energy is to see opportunity everywhere and believe we can do all things. But the discipline required to put that into a sequence, to have a strategy and then execute on it and hold others accountable to it. It requires conviction.
Yeah, and I think the other point she made was, if I just go to one, I'm underselling the value of our technology. And our TAM is still what I say our TAM is, but our go-to-market is here first. And so I think even like that rhetoric, for someone to be able to have shift in their thinking in that fast of a timeline, is incredible.
We know Jack's not a coward, because a coward wouldn't wear that beanie.
I feel like you should just wear it for the rest of the...
Yeah.
I actually will, because it's so cold. Like, I will happily wear the beanie.
Put it on, Jack.
Put it on, Jack.
Say the line.
I've just been waiting to commission. Did your mum knit that, or your grandma?
Nah, I don't know. It's some type of brand. I think it might be Billabong or something. I got it in year 6. I can remember when I got it, and I used to have these things that...
Oh my God.
I cut them off.
Wow, you would have been the cool kid.
I love it, Jack. That's good. And the thing is, these decisions are scary, right? So if you do feel that you're suffering from some of that, unpack the feeling that's leading to the cowardice. Unpack the feeling that's leading to you not wanting to disappoint or make people unhappy or hold the line. And some of it's scary, like wearing that beanie. Jack's just taking it off to those people. He just couldn't look at himself anymore.
Wait, Don, just one thing to add there, Don, and I think it touches on everything that Adrian DeMarco talks about from Tech One. And for founders, you're better off to make a decision, even if it's the wrong decision, than delaying it. And like that goes back to anything we're talking about, whether it's go-to-market, any decision, agree, make the decision, the whole team aligns, and then if you get 3 months down the road and you get more data, and then in fact you made the wrong decision, you just changed the decision. But like doing everything that's done here and delaying it screws everyone else up, and it's so murky, it's just playing in the middle.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Like most decisions are reversible, right? If needed.
If you're a founder and you're on the fence about an idea, and you don't want to go to your senior leadership team because you don't want to murky your end message, who should founders turn to kind of soundboard? I'm someone who needs to soundboard big decisions. Personally, like a big decision about buying a couch or something, I'm terrible. I need so much
big
data.
decision like buying a couch.
That's a big decision for me. I am more...
Do you use a spreadsheet when buying a couch, Ash?
I did. I should work.
GPT creates it, and it's a really big...
This decision came before GPT could handle spreadsheets, and I just made the model myself.
Did you make the right decision?
I did, 100%. Absolutely love it. But it did take me...
Ash, you need to come with me on a few sessions. There's things
gets
to
better.
unpack.
I first bought a couch from IKEA because I didn't want to spend the money, and you can return anything to IKEA within 12 months. And I didn't like how the couch was wearing, so I tried to exchange it. And they said I couldn't exchange it. So I returned it 11 months and 28 days later. And then I got the proper couch that took me 6 months to realize that sending the money was worth it.
There's a fine line between evil and genius. So I'll take it.
But you can edit this bit out. But I actually...
No.
This is the most valuable insight of the whole podcast.
I'm learning so much.
Actually, they're really important.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the photo at Costco the day after Christmas? And it's just got all the people lining up the trolleys with the Christmas tree to return it.
That would so be my dad.
I'm one of those people. My mum's like, you have zero shame. And I was like, if that's your return policy,
that is a disgrace. But I think it's important that you do have those mentors, but at the same time, sometimes I find people are going to mentor too prematurely because they're not secure in the expectations and their team and a whole lot of things, and it's a symptom of not getting that right. And so what we do as an example is we try and separate the making of a decision from the taking of a decision and make sure that a CEO or whoever's got the authority isn't abdicating. For some decisions, I absolutely believe in the more democratic approach of saying, hey, for this kind of thing, let's get together, let's talk, let's engage, let's make it. But at the end of the day, a CEO or whoever has to take the decision. And sometimes at the end of the decision that's been taken, if you know that people aren't fully on board, you actually have to say, can you live with it? because what's very important is to have private debate and public support. And sometimes if you're not getting that, it's maybe a sign to the CEO that you might be wrong. But then sometimes you still might be right. So it's a very difficult time. It's a difficult position to be a CEO. But if you don't want to be a CEO or a founder and you don't have the gumption and the stomach, then don't do it. Now, if you've got all that set up, there's things that you just absolutely can't take to your team. I totally get it. That's why you've got to have people that I believe it's good to have ex-operators that actually have some empathy for what you're going through, but understand what you're asking. And I think the person you're talking to needs to also have 3 different buckets, and they need to know where they're at. Is this a consulting question where they're asking me, what do I need to do? Is this a mentoring question where the best response is, hey, I've done these things previously, these were the outcomes, do with that what you will? Or third, is this a coaching question where I'm not going to do anything other than ask questions back and have them reflect? And too often on who you're going to doesn't understand those 3 buckets. And when you call, you don't understand those 3 buckets. And then you end up in a situation where you get, shit in and shit out.
I really like that. And do you think if a founder can hold those 3 mental models, a way to be very effective in this is when you're picking up that phone, actually saying, hey, I think I need some coaching. I'm going through X. Like, do you think that if they can get to a point where they can be explicit with the bucket they think they're looking for?
But when you're in the painting, it's hard to see the whole picture. So I think 80% lives on the person that you're calling. And you've got to have validated that this is the right person that can traverse those things, because to expect the individual in the moment to do that, that can be a bit hard, but it's making sure that the people that you're going to have an ability to go, the call might have started with, hey, insert consulting related question here. I want you to tell me X. But with the right experience, the person you're calling might sense that this is not a consulting conversation. This is a coaching conversation, and you are coming at it from the wrong direction. And I'm going to reflect back to you through a series of questions. Or sometimes some founders get lost in their head. They're overcomplicating it. They're risking a whole lot of things. And sometimes you've got to be a bit more directive and say, hey, you're overcomplicating it. I really think you should do X, Y, and Z, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's just, you've got to be respectful of that decision. And that's where the mentoring bucket, you got to be careful, because you got to choose mentors that have had the ups and the downs. Otherwise, whatever mentoring you're getting is coming from a very narrow lens. So I think it's more 80% on the person you're talking to.
Interesting. You said something about debate in private, support in public.
Yeah, that's something I need to talk to you about, Ash.
I was like, oh, it's not really aligned with how I'm thinking
joking.
about but I don't know, I've always had like a thought in my head that if you can't have a debate with the broader team watching, does that then set a culture that they don't speak up if they have an idea or an opposition? Like, how do you balance the
private debate? So if you think of in the room should be the authority, power, and influence around the decision. It should never just be 1 or 2 senior people, especially as your business grows. So private debate is about having the authority, the power, and the influence together. And you should have the cultural movements and processes to handle opposite styles, opposite interests. But you can't, nor should you have everyone in the organization involved in everything. So there's a point where a decision gets taken. And when we're out of the room, there's a maturity and there's a culture that says, well, I don't really agree with that, but I'm part of the vision, I'm part of the mission. I'm going to support it in public. Now, we get 2 months in and it starts feeling that it's still wrong. Well, private debate, but otherwise you get anarchy. Now, okay, there's shades of gray and, don't get too caught up on it. But what absolutely kills companies is meetings happen, but the real meeting happens outside the meeting.
A lot of this type of stuff is what we cover in the offsite and a little bit on the missions as well. But the offsite where we really unpack this concept of democracy. And it's something, it's always hard to articulate to founders, what we cover, but the value of what we cover. But these types of things, it'd be fair to say, Don, this is where you spend a lot of time with the portfolio companies, right? Because you're helping the founder get out of the way of themselves, but also to build teams that are capable of building high growth companies. And a lot of these types of things, they're the soft skills, but they're also the frameworks. Like, and once you have that understanding, and the other piece for me, Ash, going back to something you said about seeking mentorship or advice, I think, I like mental models. Like, I've always got, there's some gold in different lessons Adrian DeMarco has taught us that just sit there as a mental model. And same with Sowerby. Like, there's some key language and some key kind of frameworks that just, I feel, live inside my head. And I think the more founders can adopt mental models, like actually structure a decision-making framework that they adopt, can help them. But yeah, there are times where you just can't see the forest for the trees, and you need an external perspective. And I think that's where things like the offsite are great, because you get that time to actually reflect, hear others' experiences who are in a similar boat that are struggling with the same sort of issues. You see their challenges, and then you identify your own, not incompetencies, but your own areas of improvement as well.
And when's our next offsite, Aaron?
TBC. There's a small thing of raising a fund between now and the end of the year.
But sometime, most likely in November, early November.
We're taking EOIs, so more than likely next year, early next year. But we're taking registration, so we already have a couple signed up.
So I guess blending a couple of topics here, one around AI and then one around decision-making frameworks and tools. There was a post from Meryl Johnson down on the Goldie. Shout out to Meryl. She had said, we've been getting a lot of leads from ChatGPT and Bean Ninjas. It's an accountancy practice. On the Goldie, she says, there's only one problem. We've never done anything to optimize LLMs. So yes, it's a good problem to have, but we're still a bit in the dark of how to proceed. We did invest a lot in SEO in the early days, which seems to be paying off, but I'm not so sure SEO is a great place to invest anymore. And I've had a hard time believing our legacy SEO efforts will continue to generate leads for LLMs. Well, going back to an episode a couple of weeks ago, it is actually the long tail SEO that's paying off. So many posts that are coming out, and for people that are really getting a head around this, disproportionately, if you've invested in long tail SEO for a fair amount of time, that's what the LLMs are picking up. And so for a lot of companies, I still think there's an opportunity there. But it did remind me, talking about mental models, when we first invest and then on a regular basis ongoing, we help teams of people identify their potential improvement points, all of the issues in the business. And we've discussed this on prior occasions, but very quickly we help them get somewhere between 70 and 200 issues that are plaguing the business in a matter of minutes on the page. But behind the scenes, what I'm always getting them to try to think about is actually, you've got to categorize these issues into 4 groups. There's desired and expected stuff that happens to us. So that's not really an issue, but it's desired and it's expected. Where the issues and the problems start is when it's undesired, but expected. It's still an issue. It was expected, but it was undesired. So we should do something about it. Then there's undesired and unexpected. That's like the majority of issues for most companies, but especially in early stage businesses. It's like, shit, I didn't expect this and I don't want it. It's not good. And then there's desired and unexpected. And I will often get teams of people to say, which is the most risky issue? Which is the most risky classification? And often it's like, oh, it's the undesired. No, the thing that kills companies is actually the desired and unexpected. It's shit that's working well and we don't know why it's working well. And I often think back to, I did some stuff with Blackmore's, with Marcus Blackmore, but Blackmore's share price went through the roof for a long time and then cratered. They didn't realize that their product was being bought in Australia and being shipped off to China. I don't know if you remember way back when with the baby milk and the formula, their sales, they didn't know, were just going through the roof. And so sales were growing, expenses were growing, production, they just went out. It's like their own genius was doing this. Then regulation came and pretty well shut down that market, and they got killed. Their cost base was now too high. Their production, their whatever else. Have a look at I haven't looked at it for a while, actually. They may not even be listed anymore. Blackmore's share price. Chart. Yeah, so their share price went from like $11, and then in 6 years went to $200. And then it went from $200 and then went back down to $63. And in hindsight and in reflection, they never knew that good thing was happening and why it was happening. And so just joining those two things, there's a lot of people I'm seeing that are getting benefit out of ChatGPT, but don't know why. If you start to become reliant on it and you don't know how you got there and you don't know how to handle it, just don't ignore it. Realize it's actually one of the biggest risks for your business, because if it disappears on you, and we know that this world is a rapidly changing world and it's likely to, you're going to get caught short.
I think, Don, that framework of like desired, undesired, expected, unexpected. Like I think like this is what the differentiator I see with really the founders at the top of their game. Like the mental models they have and the ability to identify what is normal and abnormal, what is healthy and not healthy, what is, and they're constantly like iterating on their decision-making frameworks. Like they're constantly improving. I think it's something that first-time founders aren't aware of naturally, but I think it's an important skill set to develop. I think you just see it in the good founders, the way they talk, the way they think, the way they make decisions, the way they reflect, the way they have data points. They become data scientists, right? Like they look back at the data rather than trying to operate from emotion. But it's an important skill, but difficult to develop.
Yeah. Well, again, slightly related today, it seems to have turned into a bit more process stuff, but Joe Andon, who's the chairman and CEO of Vooley, the Vooley Play, which is becoming a really big company, he did a post saying, I'm trying to recruit a very particular important position. What do you think the title of such a position would be called? The primary objectives of the role, coordinate clearer communication between departments, attend the key meetings, document what everybody has agreed to do and when, and then hold everyone accountable for doing what they are doing when they say they will. Let no task fall between the cracks across the company. Help emotionally and professionally manage staff so that they are not meeting their requirements. About the role as a senior executive, and they can have a support person, needs to have a general understanding. And then he ends with, my team is great. Now, a whole lot of people chimed in and said, oh, it's a chief of staff. I loved Vu Tran. Vu went, it's called a CEO. This is what happens at a certain phase of growth. People try and solve a problem with people. I don't believe Joe's got a people problem. He's got a process problem. Growing rapidly from the base that they've grown, what starts to happen is accountability, communication, tasks fall off. So people go and hire this fucking role called chief of staff. What actually needs to change at a certain phase is the way issues are identified, the way decisions are made, the way decisions are taken, how plans are created, and how we hold people accountable in the organization needs to change. How a company starts is not how a company really achieves scale. And so companies that like Woolly and so many others, they start to experience these challenges and then think that people are going to solve the problem. And what you will find at very best, the person becomes a bit of a waste of time because everyone's busy, right? They've got their own authority, but somehow this new role's going to come in and crack the whip and not create a whole lot of destructive and dysfunctional outcomes. And then simultaneously help emotionally and professionally manage staff. But now they've outgrown their managerial system. They've outgrown their processes and now they're trying to solve it with people. Now, this is what Tribe does for its portfolio. It has a life cycle approach that says what's normal at one phase becomes abnormal at another. And actually, before you throw people at it, a chief of staff is not going to solve an underlying managerial process problem based on what I've read there.
The irony of a CEO who has an accountability issue with the team hiring someone who he delegates the accountability responsibility to.
It's not gonna work. I can intellectually see it, and I've been there. Like I've like, it's sort of like, I just need, if I had someone next to me who could go and do those bits that allow me to do those other bits, it's sort of, I have empathy for the intellectual component of it. Doesn't work.
But do you think also, Don, would you say this is common with the entrepreneurial energy because they tend to be lone wolves? They're very used to just getting shit done, and they get frustrated by those who don't. And they don't want to have to deal with this people issue of accountability and holding people accountable. They don't understand, why are you just not getting this done? And so the tension, I think, is common amongst entrepreneurs.
100%. Absolutely. And authority, power, and influence when a company's smallish is in like a few people. But as a company gets bigger, authority, power, and influence disintegrates. And as a company gets bigger, the CEO's power becomes so low that at best they can buy themselves a cup of coffee. But actually they've got to just work through so many different people to get stuff done that it becomes so unbelievably frustrating. But that's because the managerial process is broken. What we show portfolio and like, it comes from my previous life working with the likes of Marcus Blackmore, Jack Cowan of Hungry Jacks and Domino's, and a range of others, that if you adopt more of a life cycle approach and understand what's normal and abnormal, and then you don't try and manage the phases, they are what they are. You manage the transition between the phases. That's what kills companies. And so sometimes we're working with a portfolio and the thing is, we'll do nothing. There's nothing to do right now because there's a whole lot of normal issues and we're going to concentrate over here. But then at a certain point, some of that becomes abnormal. Now we've got to transition. And having somebody that cares, but isn't in the day-to-day grind. So we care because we're invested, but we're not in the day-to-day grind, to be able to bring some frameworks, some tools. And then I also just believe more in a therapeutic approach, that you can get people to come and do these things for you, where you can try, but actually a therapeutic approach where you're taught to sort this shit out for yourself and not be reliant on anyone else. That's like a bit of a bias that I have. You know how you're listening to a podcast and then it stops for an ad and it's really annoying? Well, that's what this is.
Oh, God. What are we doing ads for?
So from an investment perspective, what does Tribe invest in?
We invest in B2B tech companies post-revenue with scaling sales and the early inklings of their scalable sales engine that are looking to expand into the UK or US markets.
One of the main reasons I think Tribe is different is that we focus on a low volume of deals. We roll up our sleeves and add real value to our portfolio.
For sophisticated investors that are interested in investing to early stage technology companies that are scaling into global markets, we have both a fund that invests across a portfolio of ventures and also a syndication model where investors can choose the investments that they prefer on a deal by deal basis.
And enough of that, back to the podcast.
I saw a post by Lucy Wark who said, unsolicited opinion, the biggest lever Australian can pull to drive a tech boom is the housing market, not the venture market. Australia faces a slow-moving economic time bomb in the form of our housing market, where the ratio between the median income and median house price has gone from 3x to 10x in the last 4 decades. Lucy does a really good post through all of that, but it plays into, again, in some of our sessions, it's structure that achieves strategy. And the silly, easier example is from that Michael Jordan, what's it called? The Last Dance. And it's a documentary about Jordan's energy and passion and never gave up. And he never made the high school basketball team. And yeah, okay. But he was also 7 foot, born at the right time. Like, there's no way you're becoming the world's greatest basketballer if you're born with a club foot in Bangalore, right? Like, there's just no chance. I did say that to somebody once. It's like, well, not with that attitude. It's like, fuck, no. Even with a positive attitude, your structure will never achieve that strategy. Now, Jordan had the structure to achieve the strategy. Jordan had all of the attributes that he could then overlay his vision and mission. And so with a lot of people that want to get into VC, they don't actually have the structure, either financially, family-wise, time-orientated wise, to actually enter the way the world is currently. And one of the big things is housing. Like when I look at whether it's a family unit or just even single people and the amount that it costs to actually just be and live, and even in share house environments, I agree with Lucy that it is a big structural impediment compared to other places in the world, because it just means the bar has to be so much higher and people don't have an ability to actually like just ride things out for a little while because the cost to live is so high. That's my tenuous connection.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that the housing market, and Jack and I have lived through this, and SA has just absolutely skyrocketed, and it's extremely hard. I think we've both been lucky enough to be able to enter, but I'm not. I bought a property as an investment because I couldn't afford to buy something to live in, and that's just mind-boggling to me. It's like, wow, how are we at this point already? And I'm talking to my partner, Tim, about, well, look, we can't afford to buy something together here to live in. Should we just buy something in Europe as a way to have access to another market? Like if we buy something in Spain and we invest in it at a certain point, we could get an EU passport. Like, it forces us to think about where else to put capital, where else there might be career opportunities because of how expensive it is. So I completely agree with this. And I think there could be some smart incentives to keep good talent here when I already feel like we ship a lot of our best talent globally offshore.
Yeah, agreed. Well, I think all those things are connected. We've run out a bit of time. I just wanted to touch on this final one, that there was an article in AFR. Charlie Munger famously said that there were 3 brutal steps to getting wealthy, and they then unpacked them in this article. When you see people that do achieve success, some of the key things are they were very good at delaying gratification. They were very good at saving like the small amounts. And they were very good at not getting sucked into the vortex of other things. Because this article talks about saving your first 100,000. But I think if you found somebody that was able to save in this world coming out of, let's assume you weren't just given the 100,000, but starting from scratch. If you can demonstrate an ability to save $100,000 in this world with all of the social media pressures and the pressures to keep up the Joneses and whatever else, you are then setting up yourself to then move to the next level. The problem is people never set up those little behaviors. Like that's the key. And when you look at a lot of founders that we end up not investing in, or founders that just can't quite get enough traction, when you have a look at it, it's an impulse behavioral control that they just weren't able to like act in the long term, and they just kept getting sucked into the short term.
I love it. I can thank my dad for my saving behaviors. From the age of 5, I had one of those, he had the book and he took it to primary school and they used to bank it for you. Dolomites, I think it was called. Dolomite.
Oh, yeah, you have that.
Yeah. I was just on the cusp. I think it was one of the last years. I don't think Jack would have had it. But what Dad did even more was once I got to 10, any money I got for birthday or Christmas, he said if I banked it, he'd double it. So then he taught me about the power of banking with incentives, but also compound interest. So thanks, Dad.
That's it.
It's a good one. We did that with Cruzy, and he's putting away 50% of his income from his job at the pizza shop, and it's accumulating fast when that's compounding with doubling and everything else. So it's a great little behavioral incentive.
I wish I could have someone to double it still.
Well, speaking of double it, let's double the time and get into the doubly fun bit that everybody loves, which is the Sharts. So coming back to property prices in Australia, just coming back to 2016 and like the more than doubling. That's just not healthy.
Yeah,
I don't think it's sustainable. What do you mean?
Adelaide's not on there.
Oh, really? Well, it should be, because isn't Adelaide more expensive than Melbourne now?
Yeah. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, what's about that?
Okay.
I'll skip that. I saw this chart. This is taking all of the US's big unicorns at the moment and then looking at their multiples. So like Waymo is actually sitting at 600 times their revenue, which is amazing. Bolt, when you scroll all the way down, Canva is actually only at 13 times. So despite its val, if you have a look at this chart, there's a lot of people ahead of it trading at 20, 30, 40, 50 times their revenue multiple. So it's for people that are perceived to be growing and the new world, they're just getting a massive multiple of their revenue. I thought this was just interesting about long-term investing and just taking somebody went and took the S&P 500, which going back to like, what's that, 1999, and then they plotted all the big catastrophic world events around .coms and Iraq wars and housing bubbles and debt crises. And each time the market has a little freak out, but it's short-term lived and it always keeps going up to the right. And it's, again, that saying, it's not timing the market that's important, it's time in market. But there's definitely a divergence. This chart for those at home just shows NVIDIA in the Magnificent Seven. Total returns for this year, so the last 6 months, NVIDIA leads at 22%, Meta 22%, Microsoft 20%, what a behemoth. The S&P on average is 7%. But what's surprising is that Apple and Google are down. I mean, Tesla's down 22%, but it's interesting that Apple and Google are so much out of favor. So this is plotting the Shiller Cape. So this is like a ratio of earnings for companies, but then what the 10-year real returns have been for certain time periods. And our latest Shiller Cape ratio is like 37 times. And keep in mind that historically it's been more like 25 times. But historically, for the 10 years after being a Shiller Cape ratio over 35, you get a negative return. And in fact, there has not yet been a period of time in history of the S&P where at this ratio, the forward 10 years has been positive. So the question posed is it different this time? And it might be because it's the new AI and whatever, but there's been a lot of, different things. So this is saying that the next 10 years.
Whenever I see things like this, I think, was it Renee Rivkin who used to say, like, anytime you hear this time it's different, it's a sign that the market is overpriced?
Yeah, I agree. It's almost never different, but this, again, it's a chart, so I've got to include stuff that's highly questionable that I haven't actually validated, but there was a study that I saw released that took certain bee venom and applied it to certain tumor cells and over 60 minutes killed the tumor cell.
I saw this. This is pretty phenomenal if true, and if that is the actual causality and not something else. But
yeah, I do think though there are parts of the natural world that humans are yet to discover that actually are better than what medicine has come up with. That's not to say that I'm all the way down that rabbit hole. I'm just saying that it is probabilistically likely that there's something in nature that probably does better than what we've created in the lab. Guess who has a beehive, by the way? So I'm going to go and get stung. Anyway, transitioning to stuff more serious. Happy to announce that finally, after 4 years of my hard work, has paid off. My manager got promoted today.
good.
That's probably the best shot you've ever done.
Right. Okay.
I think you should stop. Well, leave
And
it
given
on
it's topical, I can't believe Epstein killed himself right before he was about to be acquitted due to a complete lack of evidence.
Oh, jeez.
Given the list has disappeared.
the last one.
If you really want me to edit these future ones, I will, but let's just see how we go. As you probably guessed, I'm not the most religious person, but my favorite line in the Bible is, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone," which basically means, oh, shut the fuck up. You're a cunt too sometimes. Thanks, Jesus.
Jesus.
But, you know, after the weekend and you know, you sort of contemplate life a little bit more. I saw this one, which I thought was, it's strange to work in a hospital. You know, in one room, there's a father holding his son for the first time. And in another room, there's a son holding his father for the last time. And then in another room, there's a guy with a remote stuck up his ass. It's called The Circle of Life.
Okay.
No good?
On that, wow.
No good?
I've got a meeting. So
I'm sure there's an analogy there of portfolio management as a piece. Far out.
All right, Ash, before you go, what are you looking forward to?
one of my best friends from Sydney is in town on Friday, which is tomorrow. So that's exciting. And I have a bunch of investor meetings lined up for next week on the fund. So super excited to get some feedback. And one this afternoon. So glad it's out there. Really excited to start getting more feedback. Hopefully, more importantly, more commitments. Me. Bye.
See you, Ash.
See you, Ash.
See ya.
Oh,
She didn't really need to go. She just didn't want to risk anything further.
I've got a mate coming down from the Gold Coast this weekend. He worked for the Gold Coast Suns, so playing the Crows. He's coming down, so catching up there.
Nice.
Sweet.
That's awesome, Jack. I think it's fair to say we've found our person for the mission role. So I'm excited to offer them a place, and fingers crossed they accept. So that's exciting. Otherwise, this sounds really boring. I'm just looking forward to time at my desk with nothing in my calendar where I can actually get stuff done. Because after being sick
Agreed.
last week and different travel, it's like, I just craving time getting shit done. What about you, Don?
Yeah, as a
Champers
as
by the
am I.
fireplace?
No, I can't do that every night. But no, I'm with you, Aaron. My to-do list. It's just got to get through, and then we've got a podcast today that I'm looking forward to, and then some portfolio sessions, and then next week we've got we're doing an offsite with one of our portfolio, Phil from Gasbot, Ultrabot, which I'm looking forward to because he always puts on a good offsite, and he's very open to our feedback, and our feedback always starts with a pre-mortem. And yeah, it's I think a relationship with portfolio and founder, needs to have a level of openness on both sides, and Phil always demonstrates that, and I always appreciate it.
I'm really looking forward to that. I love the way Phil runs those offsites and the fact that he brings his investors in to be part of it. It's going to be a lot of fun. There will be tears, I'm sure.
Always are.
Mostly induced by us. Should be good.
All right, guys.
Sweet, guys. See you later.
Catch
on.
up.
See us.